gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beast on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up, time to end the drought. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Before we get into this, you always know I play music. Here is Don Tripp with SOS, and I'll be right back right after this.
Yeah. Turn me up a little bit. Yeah.
Hey Stevie.
You take a look in my eyes, you see the pain ain't left. SOS in the sand, it's time to save ourselves, baby. The rule wasn't made for us, the game ain't fair. Take a look in my eyes, take a look for yourself. Being broke with no options just ain't no good for your health. But when you come from the bottom, sometimes it's hard to accept. Nobody's coming to save us, meanwhile we starving to death. I tuck my cig in my britches and place my heart on the shelf. Cause love is deadly, especially where I'm headed. On the highway to heaven, can't stop and ask for directions. No matter how much they pressure, don't ever fold under pressure. Win, lose, or draw, as long as you learn the lesson. How these niggas comfortable having nothing? I never understood it. You only get one life, why not live it to the fullest? It's bills to be paid, where there's a will, there's a way. If you don't bring shit to the table, you ought to feel out of place. Take a look in my eyes, see the pain ain't left. SOS in the sand, can we save ourselves? Say the rules ain't made for us, the game ain't fair. Take a look at my eyes, take a look at the stress. Take a look at my scars, baby, I'm covered in whelps. Although it could have been worse, I ain't wake up in no cell. For that I'm grateful, if you sip a teaspoon of success, niggas gon' hate you. Niggas that can't take care of themselves gon' swear they made you. Such audacity, but I'm God body. You speaking blasphemy. Back when Mike Jones was singing songs with his phone number, I had my block buzzing like I gave you the wrong number. I was running the trap while you was running for homecoming. I'm such a hypocrite for making light of my wrongdoing. My plug got jammed up, sent me into retirement. Old head start singing like he wanted the eyes. Look in my eyes, the pain ain't left. SOS in the sand, gotta save ourselves. The rules ain't made for us, the game ain't fair. Take a look at my eyes, look for yourself. Look at my eyes, the pain ain't left. SOS in the sand, gotta save ourselves. The rules weren't made for us, the game ain't fair. Take a look at my eyes, well take a look for yourself. Long live Piff. Long live Piff. Long live Piff. Long live Piff.
Long live Piff. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. This morning I want to talk about how this pipeline of power is in Minnesota. and how it's actually been here for a very long time. Um, but first, I want to get into about the promise grants. I think people need to hear this and to understand it. So let's listen to KSTP 5 investigates.
Nearly 100 million of your tax dollars has been set aside to help struggling or disadvantaged businesses. But 5 Investigates has uncovered some questionable recipients. And with fraud, waste, and abuse now top of everyone's mind, investigative reporter Ryan Raish is pressing for answers. Ryan, what are you learning?
Hey, Lindsay, it's called the Minnesota Promise Grant, up to $50,000 up for grabs for small businesses. We want to be clear here, nobody has been accused of fraud, but the lack of information released makes it very difficult to vet some of the winners. For more than 15 years, Shantae Holmes has rode the highs and fought the lows of running all washed up laundry. A cycle she knows all too well.
The business was struggling because it had just experienced the situation of the George Floyd.
Then a lifeline from the Minnesota Promise Grant. She received more than $30,000 from the state's program designed to help small businesses like hers, impacted by racial discrimination, civil unrest, and other barriers to funding. Holmes says she used the money to fix her company van.
It was a vital piece that, helped me to continue moving through.
Holmes is one of more than 650 winners named so far in this nearly $100 million grant program. But 5 Investigates also found some questionable recipients at a time when the public and policymakers are following every cent. Among the winners that stand out, not business names, but more than 300 people who the state says qualify as sole proprietors. Most work in transportation, a detail only revealed after we kept emailing the state for more information.
I'm a strong proponent of sole proprietorships. I understand that. But it's a little bit harder then to have that lens onto how is the money going to be used, or more importantly, how was it used?
I'm a reporter with Channel 5, KSTP. I tried tracking down as many recipients that I could find, and not everyone was excited to hear from me.
You can call 911 if you want. I'm just trying to find out what you're using the funds for.
The state gave this housing stabilization company more than $33,000. We found it billed Medicaid nearly $4 million since 2023, including through that housing program the state shut down last fall over fraud. By phone, the owner told me when they applied, they were under the $750,000 limit to qualify.
Just have to fill out some paperwork and getting $5,000. I think a lot of people would take that deal. It's free money. Just file the paperwork.
Then there's B&M Vital Home Care. It received nearly the maximum grant, but a quick check online shows the state revoked its license 2 years ago.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
And they have no working phone number. I brought our findings to the state senator who drafted the bill. How do you respond to that?
What I say is that if there was a license that was revoked for some reason, because there could be a technicality.
They said this was a serious issue that affected that put in jeopardy the health and safety of the clients in that business.
Well, I don't know about DHS saying that. We didn't receive any notice of that. But let me also say this. We make sure that there's no fraud and there's no possibility of fraud in the Promise Act.
Champion says he did many site visits himself and says the Department of Employment and Economic Development and its partners perform a laundry list of checks, including going over tax forms, checking addresses, and Secretary of State filings.
Even when you think in terms of the cherry picking that I think is important for reporters to do, that I think it's important to put context around these things.
I'm not sure if cherry picking is the right term.
Right.
We're going through the list to try to verify.
So I'm not here to, say that you're wrong for doing the work that you do. We want you to, because guess what? We know that there's no fraud.
But we also know that there are hundreds of businesses receiving grant money that we, the public, know absolutely nothing about. Let me ask you this. Does DEED check with DHS to see if there's been any credible allegations of fraud or a stop payment order issued before grant money goes out the door?
I think that's something you have to ask DEED, right? Because I can go through the list.
Well, it's part of your legislation, right?
Well, part of my legislation is for small businesses.
I did go to DEED, the agency in charge of the oversight here. They ignored my interview request, but in response to that question about whether they first check for allegations of fraud or stop payments, a spokesperson told me this. Quote, in the past, staff did not have access to not public data related to fraud, investigations, and stop payments being led by other agencies. I followed up today and they learned they are now doing that under a new executive order. And they previously told me they do spot checks on a percentage of all approved applications, Lindsay.
All right, so who is actually in charge of picking which businesses get the money?
So these are called pass-through grants. And here's how it works in the Metro. A nonprofit called the Neighborhood Development Center actually does the lion's share of the work here. They, too, refused to sit down for an interview, and their hired PR firm did not respond to any of my written questions, but acknowledged that recent events have raised important and legitimate questions. In a statement, NDC said, quote, it understands its role and responsibilities related to these issues to ensure this important work continues to be done in a way that has impact in financial accountability. We'll continue to track this. There are more rounds to be funded here, so this program's not done.
No, it's not done, not in the least bit. And that's
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and
the part that people don't understand is these investigations and all this shit is just happening. And at the end of the day, I feel like legislators, nonprofit leaders knew this was going on. And instead of speaking out and saying that wrong was going on and fraud and all that, they didn't care. Because at the end of the day, it's hard to prove because, first of all, they don't, when data requests, you put them in, they don't answer. And here's one thing that I wanted to show you. Because of he was able to do $6 million in fraud in St. Cloud. And we know millions of dollars have been fraudulently used, wasted, because we can see out into our communities and we don't see change. We don't see things getting better because things are getting worse. And to me, it's like, why don't people want to stand up? Why don't people want to speak out? I know people are afraid of losing their jobs or afraid that the person would cut you off who was putting food on your plates, putting food in your table. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that probably are not going to bite the hand that feeds them unless we force them to. And what I mean by force them is we have to put it up there. We have to talk about it. We have to make these people feel uncomfortable about the things that their organizations say they do. But I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh man, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. No, it's not. No, it's not. People have been asking for transparency for a long time, and we weren't getting it. We were not getting it. And if you listen to this story, you can see there was a lot of flaws that are in our system. People will say, oh, it's broken. No, it's not broken. It's supposed to do exactly how it's designed. That's how it was designed. It's for people to be able to do loopholes because the wording has always been wrong. It's always been lenient. And when it's time, we know this has been going on for at least 50 years. I don't know how many people have read Pat O'Malley's report, but there were so many people that were screaming, ringing the alarm, and lawmakers weren't listening. Lawmakers weren't listening. So what is it going to take for our lawmakers, for our legislators to actually make a difference and not just listen to the people that are paid to come up here and talk, but the people are actually out in the streets, the people that are in the communities? Because there's a lot of shit. You know what? That's the crazy thing that I cannot understand, right? Is especially when it comes to Rochester, because you hear all this, oh, we're taking care of the homeless, we're doing this, we're doing that. Okay, well, here's my point. How are y'all doing all this, right? When the shit's still going on. When the fraud is still going on. You still have people that are doing bullshit and it's still going on because we have legislators who would rather argue than to come to a solution. This has been going on for so long because we have legislators who want to argue, or they're afraid of being called racist, or they're afraid of being called homophobic. They're afraid of being called everything in the book, except that they want to stop the motherfucking fraud. So I really want to, I think people need to hear this story, because at the end of the day, this was a man that had no college degree, was a 19, 20, I don't know, I think he was like 24, 23, $6 million. He had no, the fact he was just out of high school, and we're giving people that kind of money. Wow. That's crazy to me.
Minnesota lawmakers say they want the state to shift gears on fraud and accelerate proposals that would prevent the problem in the first place.
That includes a program designed to transport people to medical appointments. Caroline Cummings explains the risks and potential solutions.
Thousands of Minnesotans enrolled in Medicaid take millions of trips to their medical appointments each year while someone else is at the wheel. The drivers, providers of non-emergency medical transportation, a federally required taxpayer-funded program that's among more than a dozen others Minnesota has determined to be high risk for fraud.
And I welcome everyone to the committee.
This in focus at Monday's meeting at the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention Committee, where the Department of Human Services officials gave an overview of the program, which they said served 250,000 people and cost nearly $130 million last year.
The situation that I'm seeing with transportation is that there's just no easy way to verify, right, that the trip was actually provided and that there was a corresponding medical appointment.
He says among the red flags for fraud, billing for a trip when there's no corresponding medical appointments, excess mileage billed, and kickbacks.
There's no magic bullet solution, right, to these problems. But there's things that will help.
Since January, DHS says there's been a pause on new provider enrollment for NEMT in the Twin Cities Metro, and that from now until the end of May, there will be unannounced site visits to each of those providers. The department acknowledged there is a decline so far in the number of claims for rides from the beginning of 2025 to the end of the year, but noted providers can bill up to a year after. Lawmakers were skeptical.
We're talking about beyond close to 400,000 rides not yet billed for in 2025. That's what we're supposed to believe. The absurdity, and it's an insult to Minnesota's collective intelligence to accept that premise.
Caroline Cummings, WCCO News.
Lawmakers are discussing several anti-fraud proposals this session, including electronic verification for provider visits.
My bad. This was the one about the fraud prevention, and how they're wary of the non-emergency transport. But what I did want to show, what I meant to show you, was about how this individual in St. Cloud was able to do all of these services and not yet be fresh out of high school and get $6 million. To me, that is negligence. That is negligence from our administration, that's negligence from our lawmakers and our legislators, and yet we still don't call it out.
Also today, a guilty plea in federal court connected to a multi-million-dollar autism fraud scheme in Minnesota. The defendant accused of paying kickbacks to recruit children, fake diagnoses, and bilking the Medicaid system. It is a case Lou Raguse first broke in September. He joins us with details from the newsroom. Lou?
Julie, this was a $6 million scheme run by a man who was just 22 years old when he opened this supposed autism clinic, Star Autism Center in St. Cloud. Abdi Najib Yusuf admitted that his he called them investors, brought in unqualified staff, family members as young as 18 to do medical services. And then they recruited children from Somali families to receive services in return for kickbacks, which were also paid with taxpayer money. Many of the kids didn't even have autism, but Yusuf admits they fraudulently got those diagnoses. After 4 years, Star Autism Center had racked up $6 million in reimbursements. Yusuf sent $200,000 to Kenya and spent $100,000 on a Freightliner semi. He did not say how much of the $6 million he kept for himself. Now, Yusuf is only the second suspect charged in what is believed to be a wide-ranging fraud scheme among autism centers. Both of these suspects have now pleaded guilty. In court today, though, prosecutors said that they plan to indict Yusuf's so-called investors who are involved with him on this scheme. He'll face about 5 years in prison when he eventually is sentenced, Julie.
Well, Lou, one of the most frustrating things, and there's so many, about these cases is it's $6 million and all we know he has to show for it is maybe a $100,000 semi. I mean, do we know if there's any ability to claw some of this back?
That's right. It's too early to say in this particular case, Julie, because they haven't divided up how much money each particular person is responsible for and where that money is. Is it in bank accounts? Is it in real estate? Is it anything they can actually get? We don't know that yet.
And these other people that would be indicted in this case, the so-called investors, is this a case where he maybe was a lower rung on the ladder and these are higher rungs on the ladder?
Well, they maybe knew more of what they were doing, but he was the only owner and CEO of this company that registered with the Secretary of State's office and the very same day was approved to be a provider by the Minnesota Department.
See, that's what I don't understand is like when you hear people say like Senator Bobby Champion, oh, there's no fraud. There's no fraud. Come on, man. It's like we got to be seriously with each other. We have to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's what I don't understand. And Bobby kind of put it out here that he was dumbfounded by Governor Walz's not for direct appropriations anymore. So I want to talk about that a little bit, right? Because Minnesota's fraud crisis exposes a hard truth about power, politics, and equity. Let's cut through the political spin. In Minnesota, we're watching a real-time clash between accountability and control. At the center of it is Bobby Joe Champion, the DFL Senate president, and Tim Walz, the state's Democrat governor. This isn't just about policy. This is about who gets to control taxpayer money and how little oversight they're willing to accept. The backdrop, a state drowning in fraud. Minnesota didn't just stumble into this conversation. It was dragged here. After years of scandals, including the massive Feeding Our Future scheme that siphoned hundreds of millions meant to feed children. The federal government finally stepped in under the Trump administration, roughly $259 million in Medicaid funding to Minnesota got paused over fraud concerns. Let that sink in. Not reduced, not reviewed, paused. That's not politics, that's lack of trust. Walz has a new anti-fraud plan and why it matters. Governor Walz responded with the 18-point anti-fraud package, more audits, more stronger penalties, and a new inspector general. But one proposal stands out, ending direct appropriations, aka legislators handpicking which nonprofits get taxpayer money. That's where the tension starts. Champion's defenses, helping the little guy, are protecting the game. Champion has built his political identity around directing funds to smaller community-based nonprofits, especially those serving Black and historically marginalized communities. On the surface, that sounds noble, but let's be honest about what direct appropriations really are. They're earmarks. They bypass competition. They skip standard vetting. They rely on political relationships and not performance. And when you remove competition and oversight from money, you don't get equity. You get opportunity for abuse. A pattern we can't ignore. This isn't theoretical. Minnesota has already seen what happens when oversight is weak and nonprofits are loosely monitored. Fake meal counts, ghost organizations, millions flowing with little accountability. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many of these schemes hid behind the language of community service and equity. That doesn't mean every small nonprofit is corrupt, but it does mean the system is vulnerable, and politicians choosing winners makes it worse, not better. Let's talk about conflict of interest. Champion himself has faced scrutiny for directing funds to organizations tied to political allies, including a former legal client. He says the work was pro bono. Maybe, but here's the issue. The system allows it. And when the system allows it, trust erodes, especially in communities already skeptical of government. The Black conservative perspective. We deserve better than symbolism. Let's speak plainly. Black communities don't need politicians playing middleman with taxpayer money in the name of equity. We need transparency, accountability, measurable results, because when fraud happens, it doesn't just waste money. It steals from the very communities politicians claim to protect. Every dollar lost to corruption is a dollar that didn't go to a struggling family, a child who needed food, a neighborhood that needed real investment. Inclusion without accountability is just exploitation. Champion frames this fight as protecting small minority-led organizations from being shut out. But real inclusion doesn't mean lowering standards. It means competing fairly, winning based on impact, being accountable for results. If a program works, it should stand up in a competitive process. If it can't, taxpayers deserve to ask why. This is my little final word. This is bigger than party lines. Here's the twist, is a lot of people don't want to admit. On this issue, Walz is actually right. Ending direct appropriations isn't about hurting communities. It's about protecting them from corruption disguised as compassion. Champions resistance, that looks like advocacy and more like protecting a system that benefits insiders. Accountability is not oppression. We've got to stop confusing oversight with injustice. Wanting transparency isn't anti-Black. Wanting audits isn't anti-community. Wanting competition isn't exclusion. It's called respecting the taxpayer. And right now, Minnesota taxpayers, especially in vulnerable communities, are the ones paying the price for a system that's been left wide open for far too long. In Minnesota, if Minnesota is serious about reform, it can't just talk about fraud. It has to shut down the pipelines that make fraud easy. And direct appropriations, that's one of them. And I agree with Walz. We have to, I think even Robert talks about this. He wants to end direct appropriations. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because how it is right now is it isn't equity. It ain't even damn, I hate that shit. Now I couldn't say the fucking word and I forgot what I was gonna say. But it's crazy because to me that's not transparency, that's not equality, that's not equity. That's favoritism. That's favoritism in real time. And people don't call it out because they believe in their eyes that it's okay. But when you bring up Chasm Addiction or even, and I forget somebody's names, I apologize, but have done fraud and who have pled guilty are for cases of fraud, and yet we still deal with them. That's why I can't get behind, and I'm sorry I don't want to interact with intertwine different people or whatever, but that's one of the reasons why I can't get behind Mike Lindell. That's one of people scream they want change, they want reform, but then they put up names like Kendall Qualls or Mike Lindell, and to me those are the same exact thing. To me, Mike Lindell is just a former crackhead, and to me, where I come from, you don't trust. This is one of the reasons why I won't run for legislative or city council or any of that shit, right? Is because I understand that when it came down to cocaine or any kind of hard drug, it wasn't just an addiction because behaviors went along with that shit. It's not just an addiction. And that's what a lot of people don't want to talk about, is because when it comes to cocaine, crack, meth, it's not just an addiction. There's behaviors with that shit because people will do anything and everything to get that high when they're strictly gone. There isn't no line of if it's right or wrong. To them, it's about survival. And I feel like that's where we need to be, is we have to pick and choose of where we want to be and what do we feel is right. Because a lot of people out here are looking at shit and they're telling us that it's okay when we know morally and ethically it's wrong. And I don't even think, that's where I know our community is fucked up. The community is way past gone because the biggest argument is if you don't agree with none of their progressive or DFL, but they already sweep you out. They already look another way. And that's what I want to talk about. You don't see conservative people in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities. Why is that? Because the DFL machine has big power down there. That's one of the reasons why when Operation Hug the Block, or even back in 2021, let's have a conversation. Even back to 2021, when the 3 babies, back in May of 2021, they had this 21 days of peace, Jerry McAfee and them. They were telling people to sign up. They used that shit. There are numbers that we would sign up. We didn't get paid for this shit. These people actually wrote a bill off of them numbers and kicked out the conservative thinking people. I can't even call myself to say I was conservative thinking, but the people who did not think that fall in line with the DFL or the black leaders who are all Democratic, and we spoke something different, they already put us out. They didn't want to listen to us because, first of all, our politics don't match. Just because our politics doesn't match doesn't mean we do have different visions and we do have different missions. Because I don't want to just spin a narrative. You know, I'd seen last night they had a vigil for the 3 family members who tragically lost their lives. But that was preventable. The system failed. And how many times do we see that the system fails us? The same shit that we pay into fails us. And why is that? I don't understand it. I really, really don't understand it, and why people think that that's okay. Like, I just don't. To me, that's crazy. There's a press conference, and I forget who's doing. Oh yeah, about Waymo. Here it is. This is Waymo.
Let me know when you want me to get started. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Erin May Quaid. I represent Apple Valley, Roseland, and Eagan. And I am here today because in Minnesota, we welcome innovation, but we don't throw our communities and public safety under the bus for corporate profits. This year, the legislature has 2 versions of what future autonomous vehicles could look like. On one hand, we could hand over the keys to a massive corporation with few to no guardrails. And on the other, a bill authored by myself and Representative Sensor-Mura, we can make sure Minnesotans have a say in how companies like Waymo affect our streets and our economies. The bill that Waymo's lawyers wrote to let Waymo certify its own safety with no way to take a car off the street if it hurts someone, damages property, or breaks laws in Minnesota is not good. I refuse to accept an autonomous car that can commit crimes with no accountability. When someone does get hurt, and they will, because it has happened in other states, we need a clear path to hold corporations accountable for the way they design and operate their technology. Our legislation would establish an independent advisory board and require a comprehensive study so we can evaluate what autonomous vehicle deployment would actually mean for our state, not just in theory, but in practice. Second, more than 100,000 Minnesotans have professional driving jobs. This could be truck drivers, delivery drivers, rideshare, or couriers. And they are sounding the alarm for their industry. The companies pushing this technology want us to think these are fully autonomous vehicles, and they're not. Waymo's executives have told Congress that they have workers, some in other countries, who make driving decisions when the algorithm fails. So there are people who may or may not be in the U.S., who may or may not have driver's licenses, operating cars that are supposed to be self-driving. We cannot let this unregulated industry turn into an unregulated monopoly that puts tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans out of work, with no plan for the future. Our bill requires an independent economic analysis so we can understand and plan for the ripple effects on families, small businesses, and local economies. This is not about whether the technology will advance or not. It's about how we guide those advancements so peoples, workers, children, and families aren't casualties in the name of progress. Our bill ensures that innovation works for Minnesotans, for our safety, for their responsibility, and that they have accountability from day one.
Hello, my name is Abdikani Ali, and I'm here, and I have been rideshare driver for 7 years, and I'm here today as a part of the SIU local 26 rideshare drivers organization committee. I'm here today because we have been fighting to make rideshares good jobs, but now we hear about Waymo coming in and try to take us backward. Not only do we not have these cars are safe, how can they do what we do? We talk to the passengers, helping them out if they have questions, make sure people are safe. Robot cars cannot do any of that. If there is a snow or other weather issue we're facing here in Minnesota, will these cars be safe? I can't believe some people are wanting to let them out, even study that it would be mean, or are they safe? Would they hurt workers? What would happen? I'm glad the politicians here today are taking this seriously, and I actually think through this issue. We have been working hard.
I'm sure he didn't write
our
that shit.
union and make rideshare job good, so that we can make sure we have excellent drivers to get people safe from their destination. That means raising pay and drivers have a voice on this job so we can do our job. These big companies are just trying to make more money, and they don't care about any of us. As drivers, I want our street to be safe, and I want people doing work here, the state, to be able to take care of our families. Rushing out these robot cars will put both of those things at risk. Hopefully, bill can be passed that takes this issue seriously and put Minnesota first, not big tech companies. Thank you.
If you could speak it.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. My name is Hannah Alstead. I'm the political director for the Teamsters Joint Council 32, representing 80,000 active and retired members across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. I also serve on the Minnesota Council for Connected and Automated Vehicles, where I've spent nearly 2 years working through the policy and safety implications of automation on our roads. This is not just about Waymo and passenger vehicles. The industry bill, House File 3513, being heard this week, creates a pathway for fully driverless vehicles of any class weight, or size, including commercial trucks, snowplows, and buses. If that bill becomes law, a trucking company could simply assert that it has the technology to operate safely on Minnesota roads without a driver. And because this bill proposes virtually no meaningful regulatory oversight, it would be the companies themselves who determine and self-certify that they're safe. That should concern every Minnesotan. We are talking about 80,000-pound commercial vehicles operating with no human behind the wheel. That raises serious questions about accountability, crash response, system failures, and public confidence. Let me be clear, the Teamsters are not opposed to technology. We support thoughtful innovation, but innovation must come with rigorous testing, transparent reporting, enforceable safety standards, and clear protocols for first responders. House File 3513 does not meet that bar. Senator Mayquade and Representative Sencer-Mira's bill gives us a chance to have more voices at the table who have been left out of this conversation. On behalf of the Teamsters Union and tens of thousands of Minnesotans who drive trucks every day, we urge the House Transportation Committee to reject this bill and support a process that includes the missing pieces. We cannot sell out public safety and middle-class jobs for tech company profits. Minnesota can lead on innovation, but we must do it responsibly with safety first. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bethany Winkles, and I am the Secretary-Treasurer of the Minnesota AFL-CIO. As the state's labor federation, we believe technology should benefit working people, not be left to private companies to regulate themselves. That's exactly why autonomous vehicle companies like Waymo should not be allowed to regulate themselves in Minnesota, and why the labor movement's principles for worker-centered AI make clear that strong standards and government oversight are essential. Our framework demands that workers' rights and collective bargaining be strengthened in face of new technology. Letting corporate tech actors set their own rules undermines collective power and eliminates meaningful negotiation on job impacts, safety standards, or workforce transitions. Our unions understand that when technologies change work, workers deserve a seat at the table, not corporate autocracy. Workers must be protected from harmful uses of AI. Autonomous systems, like those controlling fleets of vehicles, can disrupt jobs, de-skill work, or be used for invasive surveillance if unchecked. These systems should not be deployed without guardrails that prevent exploitation, protect worker data, and ensure humans remain in control of decisions that affect safety and livelihoods. We call for transparency and accountability in every use of AI, from design to deployment. Black box algorithms making life and death decisions about public roads or jobs cannot be left to private actors without meaningful public scrutiny. Workers and the public have the right to full disclosure about how these systems are trained, tested, and updated. Workers are the experts on how to do their jobs well and safely. Their expertise must inform how autonomous technologies are built and tested. We must institutionalize worker voice within AI research and deployment. Finally, AI must never be deployed in ways that harm civic rights or civil rights, undermine democratic integrity, or entrench inequality. Letting private corporations set their own standards invites discrimination, evasion of accountability, and a future where tech profits come at the expense of working families. For Minnesota, the choice is clear. We should not hand the keys to corporate self-regulation. Instead, we should follow worker-centered principles and insist on comprehensive oversight, transparency, and accountability before allowing autonomous vehicles on our roads. That's how we protect jobs, safety, and the public interest, not just corporate bottom lines. We have seen time and again the tech industry be the Wild West, with lack of regulation harming our children, harming our families, and being left to make huge profits for billionaires that exist in parts of the world that have no interest in Minnesota. We demand that when it comes to AI, workers be put first.
I knew the opera was going to start right as I got up to see. Did I wait or? Can you all hear? Or? Yeah. Okay, we can all just enjoy it for a second. It's beautiful. Okay. We'll see. We'll give it like 1 minute, and then if they're still going, I'll just try to talk over. Okay. 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 I mean, this is typical day, right? Lots of different issues converging. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna go. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Samantha Sensumura, State Rep for District 63A in South Minneapolis and member of the House Transportation Committee. I'm proud to carry this legislation along with Senator May Quade that applies common sense to a rapidly developing technology that could fundamentally change how transportation works in Minnesota. We are increasingly being asked to accept the highly controversial arrival of commercial autonomous vehicles as inevitable, but important questions remain unanswered. Who will benefit from this technology and who will carry the risk? Before we allow large autonomous vehicle companies to operate freely and generate profit using Minnesota's public infrastructure, we owe Minnesotans clear answers. You will hear bills this week in the House saying we should just let these vehicles and these companies run freely and just have industry regulate itself. But we believe that Minnesotans simply want some common sense steps to ensure the safety and security of our state. Minnesota has always embraced innovation, but innovation must come with transparency, accountability, and most importantly, public participation. This legislation creates a structured process to study the impacts of commercial autonomous vehicles through independent research and public hearings, ensuring that decisions about our roads are made by Minnesotans and not dictated solely by private companies.
Yeah, right.
Today, rideshare drivers and commercial drivers are an essential part of our transportation network. They help people get to work, access health care, and move safely throughout our communities. Introducing autonomous fleets without understanding the economic consequences could have serious ripple effects, not only for workers, but for small businesses, local economies, and state tax revenues. This bill ensures we carefully examine those impacts and consider pathways forward before disruption occurs. Safety and accountability are also central to this effort. This legislation requires independent evaluation, establishes a permit process for operators, and ensures a human safety operator remains present while we assess real-world performance. This bill also addresses algorithmic management, recognizing that software updates can change how vehicles interact with pedestrians, cyclists, and other drivers. Minnesotans deserve to know who is responsible when technology makes decisions on public roads. Other states have moved quickly and are now dealing with challenges after deployment. We have a chance here in Minnesota to lead differently by studying first, listening to the public, and setting clear guardrails before commercialization begins. Ultimately, this bill just asks a straightforward question. Before we experiment with a technology that affects safety, jobs, and public infrastructure, can't we just first understand its consequences? We have seen time and time again that big tech will run the table on us if we do not use the power we have to protect Minnesota workers, consumers, and communities. This legislation ensures that we can move forward carefully, responsibly, and with the best interest of all Minnesotans. Thank you, and now we will take some questions. Yeah, and I would say, frankly, the process right now is unclear, and I think our statutes are outdated, and our statutes were written at a different time, right? I will say, as a legislator from Minneapolis, I was pretty alarmed to wake up on December 1st with just an email from Waymo that said, Waymo's in Minneapolis, and I can tell you that also a lot of my constituents and residents were kind of similarly like, this technology can just come here, they're just on our streets. You know, right now, all Waymo vehicles are operating, you know, with someone in the car who can take over. And they are doing something called mapping, which is where they kind of are trying to learn the terrain. I think this is part of their process. But I think it is unclear right now whether or not they could start operating autonomously without a change in legislation.
Can't even hear them.
I think it is unclear, and I think, frankly, it opens up a lot of potential gray area in the law that could lead to lawsuits. You know, I think we have heard from Waymo that they don't feel comfortable with the language as is to start operating autonomously. I don't know that we can take them at their word for that, and so I certainly feel a lot of pressure this session to make sure that we pass something that ensures these.
Man, like the wording, we take their word on it, and most of the times it comes out that there's all kind of loopholes or things that you can get around it. So I don't know how that helps us really, but I want to switch until. So if people don't know, on Sunday there was a protest out at the Whipple building for ICE surge, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But there is questions, I guess, over this Instagram video that has came out recently. I think it came out on Sunday actually, about how the Hennepin County sheriffs were using force. So I want people to watch this video. And what is the difference between ICE and CBP and all these law enforcement agencies in Minnesota that are protecting the Whipple building?
Surge may be winding down, but there are still clashes outside the Whipple building. On Sunday, yesterday, 34 people were cited and 6 people were arrested after a protest. But as Alan Gala shows us, there are now questions over the use of force at the event.
The debate centers around an Instagram video that was taken in the parking lot here at the Whipple building over the weekend. It has some people taking a second look at how law enforcement engages with protesters, but it also has others wondering what we're not seeing.
I share the good, the bad, the ugly.
Darnell Edwards posts everything from nature videos to sports videos to his Instagram account. Sunday morning, he posted this video from the north lot of the Whipple building. It shows law enforcement, many in Hennepin County Sheriff's Department uniforms, forcing shields from protesters and wrestling them to the ground.
It was a lot. It was aggressive.
This is who you're protecting! We asked the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department about what you see in the video, if officers were following protocol, or if tactics for dealing with protesters have changed. We received this written statement saying, in part, on Sunday, our deputies issued dispersal orders at an unlawful assembly outside the Whipple building after individuals blocked roadways, blocked access to local businesses, dumped glass into the street, and threw rocks, ice chunks, and water bottles at law enforcement, creating a serious public safety hazard. Freedom of speech and peaceful assembly is a right. Endangering the public is not. But Edwards claims...
Hold on, I want to go back a little bit because, of course, they didn't read the whole fucking thing. I thought, so they read all the way that freedom of speech and peaceful assembly is a right. Endangering the public is not. Unlawful activity, including blocking roads, intentionally creating hazards, and assaultive behavior will not be tolerated. Now, as you watch this video, have you watched it?
Is not. But Edwards claims the aggression was one-sided. The county says that, that protesters were throwing water bottles and throwing snowballs and were being uncooperative. Anything that we're not seeing in that video that might have justified some of that behavior.
With this video, there was nothing other than words in this particular situation. They were walking on a public sidewalk with signs and shields.
Anytime you have to go hands-on with somebody, it never looks good.
Retired Hennepin County Sheriff Rich Stanek says he's seen the video multiple times now as well. He says it's important to keep in mind that there is always another angle we might not be seeing.
Right. I know there's more to it because we only saw the interaction itself. We didn't see what precipitated the interaction.
Now, in that statement from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department, it also said that the department documents and reviews all use of force incidents internally. Reporting in Minneapolis, Ellen Gallus, 5.
Now, when it comes to use of force, I'll say it again, there's people out here that come for the right reasons to protest peacefully. And their First Amendment right is given to them. But then you have others there who throw snowballs or throw ice or They broke glass all over the roads, blocking exits and shit. So to me, how is that? That's what I'm saying. We have such a fucked up uh, perception or how we view protesting now. What is actually peaceful and what is not peaceful. Going into so I'll break it down for you, right? In my view, how I see where when you go into a church, though that's where people are supposed to feel safe. Doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your creed, doesn't matter who you pray to, doesn't matter none of that. Doesn't matter your gender. All it's a law there to protect people who are practicing their rights of religion. Doesn't matter if it comes to abortion clinics. Those are places to me you can stand out, you can hold signs, but to me when you go into those type of places and you're making people fearful, you're making people feel intimidated, there's kids, to me that's wrong. That's wrong. Because why are you going? I don't want anybody to make my kids feel intimidated, scared, especially if they're there just to be peaceful. So if you're there just to be peaceful, why not stand outside? That's what I don't understand. It's like we have this fucked up way of thinking of that certain shit is okay because for certain things. But if we're gonna, this is the one thing that I do want to say, right? If we're going to take that extra extreme and do all the things that we did do, then let's make sure that we are really getting justice. Let's make sure that we're really getting justice for Minnesota residents, for the children. Doesn't matter if they're in St. Paul, doesn't matter if they're in Minneapolis, doesn't matter if they're in St. Cloud, Rochester, Duluth. All those kids should matter. All those kids should matter. It shouldn't matter their color, their creed, their gender, because those are kids. Those are people that are not paying attention to the chaos that is. I'm going to call it chaos because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing chaos. Even when it comes to our Minnesota legislator. Now, how is that not chaos? We have people in there who are supposed to do what's right for Minnesotans. That's not what they're doing. We have people still up here lying. You know, I was going to play a Walter Hudson video for you. And then I seen that you had to buy a membership. Man, I'm not buying shit to hear something, bro. Like, I don't understand it. That's why I can't support none of these niggas. Everybody wants to make $1 off of change. You know what? I'm going to show you niggas just to show you that Walter Hudson's, that it's membership. I don't care. Here's my thing of it. Don't do some of your shit that people can see and then people can't see it. That to me that doesn't make any sense. It's like, why are we charging people to hear something? And that's because how I see it is that you said some shit in there that you probably shouldn't have said. So now you're going to make motherfuckers pay for it. See? That's what I don't get. He do got a low price, but I'm not paying. Here's the thing of it is what I don't understand about these niggas, right? And I'm going to call him a nigga because he is supposedly black. Why are we charging people to learn? To learn. If you want people to be educated, why are you charging them? I don't understand that. That's why I really had a problem with Walter, and I still do. Because I feel like it's not from the heart. The shit that he does, it's about getting paid. And I understand you got kids. But I will tell you like this. You have a paycheck, a salary from the state of Minnesota, $51,000 a year. Here's the thing of it is, I don't know many families that make over that. I don't know many families that earn monthly, or I should say yearly, $51,000. There's people out there that work for $20 an hour. They don't see $51,000 a year. And yet we're paying people, we're asking people so that they can learn I don't. That's why I don't. I think a lot of these legislators, like Julia Coleman, even the guy from Blaine, Nolan West, yes, they probably have some great ideas. But when it's time to stand up on the truth, when it's time to stand up for Minnesotans, they waver, they fold, they bend. That's what I don't understand. It like, how can you waver on the truth? How do you waver on that? It's not political. The truth doesn't matter about your gender. Doesn't matter about your race, your creed, none of that shit. The truth is just the truth. I seriously don't get it. Here's what so if you don't remember, is that in that where the guy out in St. Cloud with the autism center, you know, everything that you was just hearing, Nick Shirley, he actually was in that video that he made. And I thought that was kind of
I can't give you a number. Going to a lot of these daycare centers, we're trying to find a spot for our little boy Joey, but we thought maybe we could check him into the autism center because none of the daycare centers are open. Yeah, and how many kids do you guys have at this autism center? I can't give you a number now. Like more than 5? Probably. Yeah. Probably, so you don't really know? Yeah. What do you guys think about like the fraud that's been labeled on the autism centers here? What do you guys do think about the fraud, or how come the autism centers are popping up? I can't answer. What news? Are you a news reporter? My name's Nick. We're doing a little documentary trying to find little Joey a spot to put himself in one of these centers here because there's. So why are you asking us about fraud? Like yeah, because we want to make sure we're going to legit business if we're going to bring our little boy Joey here. This is not a Joey spot. This is not a Joey. But that's her number. Yeah, I can call. But this is we can't let you guys in. So. Okay. Thank you. So once again, little Joey, he can't even go to daycare, and now they won't even accept him if he has autism.
And again, no kids. Couldn't tell you how many kids they serve.
After being able to provide no evidence of
people knew that shit was fraudulent. And still we didn't say nothing. We had legislators who knew that this shit was going on, who went through direct appropriations, through grants, to cheat the system. And they knew it because our legislation allows it. Kickbacks. That's the number one thing that we hear about the autism, the NE, non-medical transportation shit. It all comes back to kickbacks. And one thing that I can say is that in Minnesota, kickbacks are legal. They're not illegal. It's okay. But here's the thing that I want to say. Just because it's a law that makes it okay, does that morally make it all right? Does that morally? Does your ethics? Because I can tell a lot of people, no matter if it's in Minneapolis or, other cities that I've lived in, people care about the truth. People care about the truth, about the facts. And how, when this is the one thing that really drives me a little crazy, right? Is when people go up, the first thing they want to say, oh, are you a reporter? Are you this? Are you that? What the fuck does it matter? You have a business. You have a business that the man was asking questions. Could have been a gay fucking couple. They had a little boy. They had a little dookie baby. Little boy named Joey. But yet, that's crazy to me. How? So when Bobby Champion says, oh, I was doing site visits, I was doing this, I was doing that. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Because you can see on paper that the people that these nonprofits, who they deal with are crooks. Didn't matter if it was Jerry McAfee or L. Flowers. These people use their friendships to politicians so that they're nonprofits and some for profit, because they would switch. Here's the thing that I really want people to understand, right? If I'm lying, I'm dying. Rep. Tim Christopher went to a meeting Monday's men meeting or whatever they had. I don't remember what it was called. That was Mickey Frost and Jonathan Mason. When he went there, they were explaining how they were going to give all these organizations $100,000 and how to use this money. How to use this money. Not anybody in that room said it was wrong, but only one person. Only one person. Reverend Tim Christopher. But yet now we look at these people, especially in St. Paul when it comes to Mickey Frost and Reverend Spence, Sheriff Bob Fletcher, who has ties to Twin Cities of Refuge over in St. Paul, because Sharon Ross was indicted, charged, pled guilty, and even sentenced. And still has the big old house out in, I don't forget where it was at, but it was in the suburbs. But what people didn't want to realize and still don't want to realize, when you go back, because her Facebook page is still up, go through the pictures. You'll see Reverend Spence. You'll see Fletcher. You'll see God Squad on there. But you won't see no accountability. You won't see no accountability. That's what's crazy. And I really don't understand that. It should be crazy to me. And it's like, what do people honestly expect? Like, because I can tell you right now is that when I sit here and I think about our legislators in Minnesota, it's crazy to me. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Because we're not going to ever, there's some of that money we're not going to get back that was to feed kids, that went to make sure rents were paid, to make sure that autism services were actually rendered, were actually done. There's no paperwork for that. So like, what do people really stand up for? Are you standing up for the truth? Are you standing up for what's right? That's what I really want to ask people. Are we standing up for what is right? Do you every day, day in and day out, do you do things that make you feel like you're doing the right thing? Even though some people might see it as wrong, some people might see it as okay. Does that make it all right? If you know morally that something is wrong, why do you continually to do it? Is it because others around you do it? That's what I really want to ask people. But I'm going to get up out of here. I got therapy today. And I got some other shit to do too as well. So around the house. So I'll be back Thursday. I won't be back tomorrow. I got other shit going on. I got appointments. I got a lot in the afternoon. I got blood work. Yeah, just a whole bunch of shit. I gotta go meet the doctor about this vascular dementia. So I don't know. Hopefully everything turns out and will be okay one way or another. I don't know if it will or not, but I know God is here for me, and I rely heavily on my God. So that's my higher power. So I know that I'll be okay. So until Thursday, again, look at these bills. Look at what's going on in the Minnesota legislature. Because there's tons of shit going on. There's tons. There's tons. This morning, you heard bills from Harry Niska about fraud ain't free. You heard others that wanted to put into the MMB about the fraud, because that does affect us. No matter if people actually really want to believe it or not, it affects us. So with that being said, I will see y'all Thursday. Until then, I'm up out of here. It's Don Tripp, Anger Management, and I will see y'all then.
What's up, Juwak? Yeah. Forgiveness is God's job. Yeah. Forgiveness is God's job. for my peace of mind. I came up from serving squares like the pizza guy. All these horses way too loud, ain't no sneaking by. In my tent way too dark, you can't peep inside. My old lady raising hell, she on demon time. Might just had to fuck this woman to sleep to get some peace and quiet. Might just send that clean up crew to your crib and tell him I need your lie.